Welcome to the Sacred Rebellion, the space where truth isn't filtered, sovereignty is sacred, and no rebellion. It's a return to self. This isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering. We are here to break the trance of comfortability, reclaim our gifts, and rise as the embodied rebels we were born to be. Here we journey with the wild hearts, the way showers, and the visionaries who choose their truth over comfort, their mission over fear, and their souls over the system. This is where the coded ones come to speak, the ones who didn't fit in because they were never meant to, and the ones who turned their pain into their power and their story into their medicine. So drop in, take a breath, and let's remember who we are, one sacred rebellion at a time. Welcoming to the show, Trilby Johnson is an energetic architect and best-selling author known for having conversations with bodies their owners don't yet know how to hear. Her work lives as an intersect of somatics, neuroscience, and embodied energy, supporting self-aware women who understand the theory but are tired of still reacting in the same old pattern. For more than 2 decades, she has guided hundreds of people to untangle chronic emotional and behavioral loops, reconnect with their bodies, wisdom, and stop fighting themselves so they can finally remember who they truly are. She works with clients globally and has lived on 3 continents. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm really happy to be here. It's always interesting for me to hear my bio read back because I'm kind of like, wow, I do all that. I think we don't maybe stop enough and actually acknowledge our wisdom and how much we know. But I'm very happy to be here. For me, it's all about sovereignty. Let's do
Amen.
it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too, sovereignty. And I love how you talk about how people get stuck. I know you use the term women. I don't know if you work with men, but I have both in my audience. And I want to talk about a little bit how the body is the communicator, right, within ourselves of how we can find and stop the looping of the pattern. I'm also an architect, so I completely understand the energetics of the multidimensional body. This really rang true for me when I read this, was like, yeah, I can resonate with this. So tell me a little bit how your method works, because we all work a little differently and it's fun that way, right?
Yeah, so, well, I don't really have a method per se. My method is the person's energy. I really follow the energy, and I've learned to trust this implicitly because it takes me into realms and spaces that me, the human, is not consciously aware of every day, let's say. So, I mean, I use a protocol when I'm working with my clients because over the years I've, taken out what I needed, and there's a specific way I work which have found gets the most results, and it actually locks in the transformation because there's a lot of things, a lot of mindset, it's talking, things like that. But it's so important to connect the body and the mind, the head and the heart. That's what we're doing. So the person is the methodology, and that's why I don't specific, and I follow that, so a session could be whatever is really needed, and I know that sounds enormous, but if somebody's been stuck, it's to get them talking about what that is, because I find there's so much information available, but there's a very different process that happens when we actually hear ourselves saying it.
Yep.
And it's because when we actually hear it, and I mean, that's the concept behind talk therapy, but I found after a while talk therapy wasn't enough. There was another layer and I wanted to go further. So my method per se is the person, their energy. I tap into their mind map, how they're functioning, because it's not about me giving them an answer. It's about leading them to their own answer.
Sure. Yeah. I love how you say that you connect the mind to the heart, because that is something that I feel is something I actually do every day in my own practice, right? Is I'm like, hey, mind, are you connected to my heart, and heart, are you connected to the frequency of God energy? And connecting those connections every single day, really just those micro little shifts that we bring in our reality every single day, they magnetize. And I tell people all the time, it's compounded work that actually moves systems really quickly. So I love how you connected that, because that's something that I do on a regular basis, and tell people, like, if you're where is your mind connected to currently? Where is it at, right? Like, what kind of answers have you gotten when you've asked people that?
Well, the way I work, it's very organically, because it's basically copying how people form and unform habits. I mean, what we're doing here is just creating new neural pathways and cellular pathways. And we need, so a lot of modalities, or they focus on the mental. And I think this is what people are now hitting up against. We're seeing a lot of mental masculine energy out there, and it's very, and we're needing to drop into the feminine energy. So, and that's also the way I work, the protocol I use. It's very organic. It's how the mind works, it's how the body works, and then we bring them together, and the energy, of course.
Yeah. So you've been doing this work for over 2 decades. What was the moment that made you realize the body was speaking in ways? So how did this apply in your own life? Because I'm going to guess this had something to do with your own experience.
Yes, I mean, I grew up. My mom was very into healing, so for me, it's natural. I didn't realize other people didn't do it. And then people would make comments, even very young, that just kind of sitting with me, or when I held their hand or I touched them, they would always say, "Oh, that feels nice," or, and it could be a little bit more than just touch. So when I moved to Europe, I got curious, and I thought, oh, I wonder what this is that I'm doing. And I also wanted a certification. So I came across Reiki, and I thought, I think this could be what I'm doing. Okay. And so I went into Reiki, and that was quite a long journey. But yeah, I loved it because it gave me a foundation. And I went on to be a Reiki teacher. So that was the energy side. And then the mental side said, yeah, but blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
So,
it always does, right?
yeah. So then I decided I wanted to study psychology, hoping it would answer all my questions about life. And what I discovered is I had even more questions.
Yeah.
And of course, doing my own talk therapy at the time, so getting to know myself. But there was always this barrier that I would come up against. And then I thought, okay, there's more, there's more. So I just kept on saying, okay, there's more, there's more. But I
Yeah.
think it was really, for me personally, I started having massage sessions in my mid-20s. And for me, that was a big thing because I didn't like being touched. I was very self contained and I didn't want anyone to touch me. But I'm very curious, and I thought, I'm going to give it a go because a friend of mine said, there's this therapist I know. And so I went along, and it brought up so much stuff, but also the awareness, like, okay, this is what's happening. And I think the first inkling was I used to get very, very bad migraines, like 2 or 3 a week. I was so stressed and my body was just screaming at me, but I hadn't made the connection yet. I was just so in survival mode that I just didn't understand. So after 2 or 3 months of massage, all of a sudden I realized, hang on, my migraines are getting less. And I think that was the first eureka moment, like, okay, this is what's going on. And then a lot of my own journey was also very much talk therapy, trying to figure it out in my head, because I have this side that's extremely analytical.
Yep.
And yet there's this, and then there's the side of me that's so intuitive. And I think I was trying to reconcile that, figure out
Sure.
which one's the real one. And of course they
Yeah.
both are. And that's the
Sure.
mind and the heart, right? And
Right.
then I worked in corporate for, 25 years, and then I'd had enough. And I really, really wanted to devote myself to this more esoteric spiritual side of my work. And by then I had the credentials, I'd done all the studies, the work and then I moved to New Zealand, and that's where I really decided, right, I'm going to offer massage therapy, because that was my ticket into the country. At the time they needed massage therapists, and I thought, okay. And for me, it was a way of giving back. And I think I know it kind of sounds backwards, but I think the actual touching bodies, feeling them. And this is when I started to realize there's a whole nother conversation going on here. What the hell is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it made it really concrete for me, because I mean, I'd always had voices in my head, but there was also this other sound, background noise, and it was when I really, after probably the first couple of months, and I really started to realize, okay, this is what going on. And that was probably, really 20 years ago, when I really realized that I'm privy to these conversations, and, having to learn to manage that for myself, because my nervous system was going like, "Ah."
Most people are.
Yeah. So I think it was 20 years, and I mean, I've been massaging most of that time, as well as coaching. I've been transitioning away from that now because, again, I think there's another level of transformation, and I personally want to be more in the autonomous and proactive side. And I mean, absolutely get your massage, self-care, our bodies need the physical, but there's still this other level that's feeding into the physical. And that's why now I just want to do this work coaching people, and I don't need to physically be in the same room as somebody anymore to touch them. So
Yep.
yeah. And that's all compounded, Reiki, all that, learning how to work remotely, things like that. Yeah, and this is what I want to do now, and really identity shifts, moving into this sovereign state and the one thing that's really, really working with people and their bodies, either as a massage therapist or healer, people are so disconnected from their bodies,
They are.
very much so, not understanding what our bodies are, how they operate. And you don't need to go into being a doctor or things like that. And that's also something I offer my clients. I say, I don't give you a quick fix, I give you a fast track, because you don't have to do all the studying, because the body tells us. And the bodies I say they have an attitude problem, because of course they just say it like it is, and they can be very rude in a sense, because they just say, kind of like, I want a cheeseburger. And the person's going, yeah, but I'm on this very, and it's like, your body wants a cheeseburger, and there's the nutritional saying, oh, that's too much fat or whatever. But when you're in a specific frequency and you truly know that that's what your body needs, and that you trust your body's biology, chemistry, it's a very different relationship. And of
It
course,
is.
the body's been vilified for centuries, because they know, the ones who are manipulating and in training us, they know that if we listen to our bodies, the wisdom coming through, then we are rebels, right?
That's right. Rebels. Yes. Yeah, I love that. I was a hypnotherapist. That's how I started. And obviously I've always been gifted my whole life. If you don't know a little bit about my story, I was always a medium. And so when I did hypnotherapy, it was finally the first time you talked about those noises in your head. Like, that's what I was hearing, right? Like, it was so loud, right? Because that's what the underworld spirits want to do, especially with highly gifted people, is they want to make that voice so loud that you can't think past that. Like, it's like tunnel vision, right? And I think the more gifted you are, the louder that really is. And I love that you have some skin in the game, right? Like, you're not one of those people that just woke up in 2020 during COVID, or, like you have some skin in the game. You've been in it. You've been in your healing experience. You've had the modalities. You've been around. You've seen a lot of, different probably niches go up and down and all the things. And I love how you can say after 20 years, people are still so disconnected from their bodies. And I also can definitely resonate with that, because that was the last thing I really put like together in my own healing, was my body. And so that's where I'm at in my current experiences, really listening to my body. And just like you said, it doesn't matter if you're on a cleanse, a diet, if your body wants something that's going to ground your field, a hamburger is what's going to do it. It's going to put you in your physical really quick. If you want to get really anchored in your body, go do yoga. It's going to put you in your body. If you really want to get in your body, go get a massage. Like, a monthly massage is a non-negotiable for me, as someone who, one, works in people's systems, as a mom who has all these like high energy things always going on. It's a non-negotiable for me. And I think that, if moms are listening, or dads, like, allow someone to move your energy in your physical body, because it really is so important. It really just it removes the stagnant energy. And it's always interesting, because with my massage therapist, I've had her do massages on me for over 3 years, and she can always tell when I'm going through transformations, like when I'm in huge peaks, because she goes, I can feel it in your body, Michelle. She's like, you're in major integration, your body's soft and it's moving. And when I'm in like huge growing pains, it's tense, it's a little more rigid, right? And she's like, you must be downloading something recently because your body is like really intense right now, right? And so it's really interesting to kind of see the correlations of like highs and lows that we deal with, even as healers, if that's what you want to call us, light workers, whatever people want to identify, rebels. I'm going to call myself a rebel from here on out. I'm not a healer, I'm a rebel. And moving through the energies of those of in our own energy field, right? Like you are probably, it's probably non-negotiable to get a massage. Like it's non-negotiable. That's how I am. So for someone who's listening right now who feels stuck in a pattern, and this is really big, like even as someone who is a coach as well. I don't like to use the word coach either because it's like it's so cliche, right? Like life coaches and things. Like we do way more than a life coach, folks. Okay, let's just put that out there. Life coach is not much different. Yeah, I was like, we are not just coaches. We are more than a life coach. We're multidimensional architectural people who help people restructure. If you're an architect, you are restructuring people's physical multidimensional reality, meaning you work with the body, the mind, and the physical body and the soul. You work with all 7 layers of the multidimensional facet. If you don't know what that is, like research it. We're just going to like play with the algorithm here for a minute. But for someone who's listening right now and they were going to work with you and they feel stuck, which that's, I hate the word stuck, but we're going to use that because that's what people use. I'm using people's language. And they seem to like not be able to take a break from their physical reality. What's one thing that you would say to them right out the gate of what's going to help them in this moment?
Well, I think getting to that place where we can already say, I'm stuck. That is identifying a pattern. And then we start, first of all, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I think a lot of people think there's something wrong with me, especially if it's a very big identity pattern, an ancestral thing, then, we're going to feel it and it keeps on coming back. So I think first that to let them know they're in the right place. I mean, most of my clients come to me when mainstream is no longer working for them. So already they are outside the box, um, and are open to looking for something different. And, I often say confusion is a wonderful place to be because what's happening again on a cognitive level is your brain starting to go, I can't match this up. I can't match this up. I can't match this up. Our brain, I say, is a matchmaker. And so we have to open up the spaces where the brain will go, there's no match here. And then, okay, now where do I go? And the articular, whatever it's called, in the brain starts to open up and search. It's like if you're looking on Google, you put in a word and it comes up, no results, no results. This is exactly, you can feel in your brain goes, that's strange. What do I do now? And that's what we want to get you to. If you're feeling stuck, asking that question, what do I do now? And being open and curious and being okay, being uncomfortable, being okay, being triggered, because the triggers are the gold.
Yep.
And there's so much shouting and online at the moment, like, what's this with triggering people? It's irresponsible. And yeah, I mean, we're not going to just go and trigger people. It's in a container and we're there doing it with our expertise and our knowing, and they're there to do that. So yes, it's opening up the doors, again, saying to the brain, right, we're going to create a different habit here,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the way the mind works. Everything's structural, but we also want to keep it as fluid as possible so that you get in this beautiful, flow rather than this rigid thing. Yeah. So I start with the problem. I always ask them, where do they want to be? Because I think that's important as well. And sometimes that in itself is part of the feeling stuck because they don't know what comes next, and that's okay. So it's opening up that space that they become aware that actually, there's more options here. So I think mostly, that stuck is kind of a good place because you've come to the end of maybe what you know or how you know to express it. And we're not encouraged enough. I mean, especially now, we are being called to be creative. we are conscious creators, and this is like, right, so let's pull out the stoppers and again tap into the person's energy, because their energy knows exactly where it wants to go. So it's just opening the space where they feel safe enough to do that. Of course, we need to have the body on board. The nervous system has to be in a place where it can go, yeah, okay. And if it's not there yet, look at why, because that's linked to beliefs, identity, all of that. So, or, it's like the elephant in the room. Well, just break it into puzzle pieces. We're not going to take on the whole elephant. We're going to start and then walk them through their own thinking process. Because again, if people are disconnected, if they're not grounded, the whole thought process is scrambled, and the predominant fight, flight, or freeze will be playing out. So the first thing is to get them into a space where they can shift in the mind and then listen to what the body's saying and then align with that.
What I find is the nervous system oftentimes is the body system. The body system and the nervous system coexist together. And there's a reason why they coexist together. And, it's as someone who works a lot in the nervous system and recoding the operating system, that's what I do, is that a lot of times the body is just essentially mimicking what the nervous system, that fight, flight, freeze frequency operating system, and then it's attached to identities, and then the identities move into the subconscious aspects of the body. That's just what I have found in my own healing, is that I had done a lot of mindset work, but my body was still having every time there was a situation that happened, I'm going, why? But my brain can cognitively understand the pattern. My brain can understand intellectually why this is happening, but my body is still going, this isn't safe. I don't feel, when someone raises their voice or screams really loud, my body will immediately go into a panic mode, because it just causes dysregulation immediately in my field. And I have a 9-year-old, and I'm always like, do not scream in the house. I will immediately go into a like fire mode, So it's so interesting how, I grew up in a house that yelled a lot. And so for me, that's an immediate dysregulation. It doesn't matter how much healing work I've done. When someone starts yelling at me, I'm going, okay, I don't feel safe anymore. This feels like a dysregulation. So I want to touch on that a little bit, because I think you're hitting a nail on the head here when it comes to connecting all the multidimensional facets here. And in the same note, it's like, you're still going to have reactions. Your body's still going to have things that it's never going to tolerate. I can't handle yelling. That's just like a non-negotiable for me. It doesn't matter how much healing I do. Yelling immediately puts me into a flight mode, or even especially if it's my children. I just want to, I don't know if you have children, but I'm like, immediately, if someone screams at my children, it's like, excuse me, we don't need to yell in order for us to hear or feel heard. Does that make sense? So it's like, I want to talk a little bit about that. Have you noticed that in your own healing journey, where there's just like some non-negotiables, that's I call it a hell no for me,
Yeah.
You're not going to yell at me. It's just a hell no for me,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And this is boundaries for me, and as you said, non-negotiable. And already, I grew up in a household and a society where you didn't speak out. It's a bit Gen X thing as well. But specifically in my household, I was never allowed to say what I feel. And when my facial expression showed it, I was told to get that look off my face. So I had to close everything down, and for a long time. And so I didn't know there were boundaries. I found my boundaries within myself. I spent a lot of time introspecting, pondering. They say when you get to your 50s, the best thing is you don't give a shit anymore.
I'm there. I'm almost 40.
I don't know if it's age or what, but I love it. Like, yes, bring it on. It's like, finally, I don't really give a fuck what anybody says.
Yeah, no, you can swear here. I don't care. That was me. I turned 40 this year, and I'm like, 39 hit, and I'm like, man, the song that was like, if they don't care, we don't give a fuck. Whoop, that's my anthem this year. I'm like, okay, is this because I'm like hitting in my 40s and I just don't? So I'm a little bit behind you, but not much. But I'm in the same boat. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if you don't like me. If you don't like my shit, go ahead and scroll on. I'm not going to argue with you. Yeah, so, I love that.
So I'm post menopause, and I said to someone the other day, I said, I think it's the first time that I really know my body's my own. And that is a whole nother level, because it's a wisdom, and I wish all this menopause stuff, I totally honor that, our bodies are all going through things. But again, I hear what bodies are really saying, and there's a lot of stuff they don't want. But, the agreement, I will bow to you until I can't anymore, basically.
Or
Yeah. So boundaries, absolutely. Coming back to your situation, where certain things are triggering you. So, yeah, absolutely. It's not that we never triggered. In actual fact, the more aware you are, you're going to be triggered a hell of a lot more because you are spot on. I always say energy doesn't lie. Your body knows, but you're able to hold yourself better, like you say, and apply it to your boundaries. If I was working with a client, I would just actually investigate though if there is any residue there, because often the nervous system will convince us that to keep safe we don't want that.
yeah.
And so it's conditional, and so there can be a little bit of residue there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. If someone yells at me, a lot of times it's like, okay, don't yell at me, or it's like I'm laughing at how ridiculous it is. But when it comes to my children, it's a whole nother game.
Yeah.
It's like a whole nother level that you just like didn't even think was possible. I think it just brings into that, even you talking about menopause. I love that you brought that up because I've had a womb healer on here and she talks about the wisdom that someone who has gone through menopause has. And a lot of times we take women who have, they're broken or they don't work anymore. And actually, there's like this, have you ever read the book Maiden to Mother? It talks about the woman that goes from a maiden to, it's a phenomenal book, but I read it a while ago and it talks about how a woman goes from a maiden to a mother and the transformation identity wise that shifts in the physical body and in the subconscious of the woman moving into a mother. And then I would like to see the mother to the grandmother. Like, I want to see the sequel. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see the next aspect of that. What transformation? Because I don't think that's talked about, the difference between going from the mother to, not even necessarily if you don't have children, but grandmother, or that aspect of post-menopause, of what transforms in the identity, the energetics, the vibration, what moves into that frequency. I know this is a little off topic, but I mean, we're going there.
Yeah, no, I think it's a if woman, the feminine energy, which is stepping more and more forward, this is it, and it's very lacking in Western culture. We absolutely treat our elders terribly,
Like shit. Yep.
and if you look at the native tribes, there was a great respect. They even had initiations for the elder, whereas in Western society we don't do that. I think it's important, quite the contrary. The menopause industry has been, well, taken over by pharma.
Yeah.
And if this is why, if you just, I'm not against using what you need to use. It's like the cheeseburger. If your body says I need that, then
Yep.
honor it. If your
Yep.
body needs,
Estrogen. Yep.
whatever, get
Yep.
it. But as long as you connecting and having the conversation with yourself, like you daily, body, what do you need now? What do you need today? So absolutely, it's a whole nother phase. And I know I don't have children, but I've read, so biochemically at birth, if you have a natural birth, the pain threshold is so extreme that it propels you, it actually opens up unblocked portals or
Well,
energy
I've done
centers.
that. I got that.
So, and when we get to post-menopause, because of the drop and change in hormones, we now access other things, and it's all a part of connecting to yourself. I think if people really listen to their bodies, there would be a lot less struggle and pain, because there would be an understanding of what's going on. And I think it's very linked to trust. So yes, I mean, I will not be a grandmother, but you don't have to. I mean, I've nurtured many, many people, and I have my fur babies, and so
Yeah.
there's
I
many
love fur
memories.
babies.
And it was a conscious choice for me not to have kids, because I knew very clearly I had to clean up my own shit first, because otherwise I knew I was a cycle breaker. I just knew that. And I thought, if I have kids, it will pull me out of my own path. So I wanted to do it this way because having kids is well such a big responsibility. I just knew because I've had kids in past lives very clearly. I know what it's like to be a parent, and I just thought, no, this time around I am going to pass. So, and of course, menopause is for women is very much that because the biological clock is ticked over. But in a way, it's like, oh, thank God, don't have to worry about that too. I think because of the connection I have with my body. I mean, I probably only realized I'd gone through menopause after the fact in a way, because for me it was just daily, what do we do today? And my life kind of morphed around that. There were days where I had less clients and, I could have gone, oh my God, why have I not got enough clients? But afterwards I realized that because I needed a bit of time for myself, I needed my energy for myself. But yes, I mean, there's people like Jane Fonda who are amazing, examples of these women who speak up. They've been doing it, the boomers, they've laid the way a lot for us. And it's very, very important now that we remember that as women. I mean, we're seeing those privileges being revoked willy-nilly. Yeah. So there's this backlash. Now is the time. And I love listening to older people. I mean, the people who have been through the wars and that. I mean, the stories are just amazing, And I was pre-internet, I was just thinking the other day, and I'm really glad I was that period and this period. I mean, I love tech, I love what we can do with it, but I'm really glad that I had that grounding. But yes, it was a different time, different lifestyle. I think the truths, and they interview these older people and they say, what's the secret or what do you regret the most? I mean, I think the most one is people saying, I wish I had have taken better care of my health. And then there's other things. But yeah, speak to older people because they know.
For someone listening right now who feels stuck in patterns and they're really wanting to break free of those, do you feel like it's more understanding, or what do you think is the process? Like, how do you work with clients working through breaking those patterns?
I think the issue is trying to understand it.
Okay.
We have to shift level here and again connect into this wisdom that we have within ourselves and feel it. That's why the psychosomatic.
Yeah.
It's feeling it, it's bringing it into the body, and it's not it's done in a specific way, the way I work. Yeah, I think a lot of the walls that people are hitting is because I think the mind has reached the limits for now of what it can digest.
Yeah.
And so we are being pushed. It's kind of one of these initiations where there's a threshold that's there. So it's experiencing over understanding. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there is definitely a threshold. I also think that a lot of times it's people digest so much information on social media and different things that are, you have ChatGPT now, you have, social media with people and experts of, people understanding their own processing and their own things. And I think a lot of times people get stuck in that they're consciously aware of the pattern. They know they do it, but then the mind creates this justification, the logic that essentially keeps us looping and moving into those loops over and over and over again. And it's very interesting because even with my own clients, it's like I see the pattern. I mean, at 5 minutes, and I'm just like, the pattern's there. I can see it. I can feel it. I know where it's in the body, right? Just kind of like what you were talking about. And then it's like, you can even say it exactly what it is, exactly what the body is saying, exactly how the mind perceives it, exactly. And they'll still deny it. And the reason is because the mind has created an identity attached to that pattern and why it benefits them. So a lot of times what I see in the clients, maybe you can, echo off this, is that a lot of times the patterns are benefiting you. And that is essentially why you just keep moving, quote, stuck, fix, whatever you want to call it, is you keep moving into these perpetual cycles, is because it's like, I don't want to set boundaries with my family, because if I set up boundaries with my family, then what's the unknown outcome? And that's where the brain keeps you in this space, is that if I actually cut out and put up boundaries with my family, then the outcome would be what? And a lot of us that have broke through those patterns is because, like we were talking, we don't give a fuck if they're mad, right? Like we stop caring the outcome. The unknown is no longer scary. I even have a workshop, it's like loving the unknown. And it's because when you can move yourself into the unknown of the pattern, then you're able to kind of like almost like twist it and pull away from it and be able to look at it from a different perspective instead of having this perpetual cycle of, I've got to stay in this pattern because it's my survival. I've got to stay in this pattern because it keeps me in this, getting help from parents, or I've got to stay in this cycle because if I speak up, then they're not going to help me out with my children. And, there's like that perpetual cycle that moves through. And I think for someone like myself, I've never really given a shit. So for me, it was like boundaries move. And it's like that threshold of constantly, you talked about being uncomfortable. It's like growth is uncomfortable. When you're in a relationship or if you're married, I know that's a big thing in the spiritual community is like divine union, twin flames, and all these things. It's like, if your relationship is comfortable and you haven't had uncomfortability in a relationship, your relationship boring. Sorry, but it is. Like, it's got to be a little bit spicy sometimes, right? Like that's what relationships are supposed to push you into in relationships with your friends, your family, if you have a partner, it's supposed to push you into those uncomfortabilities. And I think that that's what society gets stuck in, is that healing is supposed to be this quick fix. And I love how you brought that up earlier, was that people need to like work on things a little more. It's not just this like, I'm going to give you a Reiki treatment and all your problems are going to go away. It's like, no, because you have to move through the energy. It's identity work. And I think that's what you're talking about a lot, is like moving through the identities of the patterns of why you're staying in the same perpetual boundary issue, right? And because you're giving you something, it's actually giving you something, or you wouldn't be in it.
Yes, I think especially the new age industry has, what people are starting to pinpoint now, and the dissatisfaction is because a lot of soothing work has been sold as transformation, and people are pissed off now and saying, well, where's my shit? I want, this is, or if they want that, okay, we're all at different levels. So I really particularly want to work with the person who really is ready to move. They're not, I mean, yes, absolutely. There is a soothing that happens in the session. So I want to come back to where you say, and you lead people. So it's not the thought. Remember, we are electromagnetic beings. It's the energy, and that's what I address. We need to address the energy because everything we do generates energy. There's a spark. No one's addressing the energy, but the body addresses the energy. So this is this level. People are very in their minds in that. And yes, we're electromagnetic beings. So every thought we have has a little energy spark. So this is where I work, because we have to start addressing the energy, and it's the gap. So it's slowing down enough. And then the protocol I use actually does this. So it's very organic. It's the way energy moves, and it gets them through the stuckness because they are active. It's happening in real time. They're thinking. The idea is not to suppress your thoughts or, just go into the body. And as you said, that's also why I've kind of moved away from just body work per se, because I got tired of people just wanting to come in and be soothed, which nothing wrong with that. But there's other people who can do that. That's not the level I want to work at anymore, because it's like massage. I have clients who are builders, for example, but, their bodies, the posture has become used to the work. But until they actually change their job, because there's the repetition. So it's all these factors. And it doesn't mean you go and resign your job and say, I can't do this anymore. It's also getting your body to a place, because there's beliefs you hold in your body about what it is, and then also allowing the body to move. So maybe changing your work hours, things like that. But yes, in the moment, we are addressing the energy, and the mind is very quick to skip over that because the mind's been trained to do that, but that's also the part that hooks in the habit. So I basically disrupt energy, and that's why it can be very triggering for people who are not ready for that. But if you are really, truly looking to become unstuck, that's what you need to disrupt the pattern, right? So, and it's the body, the mind, and the energy. If you don't do it on those levels, it won't stick.
And I think
Yeah.
that's the future of energy work, is working in the multidimensional facet instead of just the mind, or just, and that's like essentially what happened to me was I was doing hypnotherapy, and then I'm seeing cords and attachments, and then past lives are
Yes.
pouncing through, and all these things are moving through
Exactly.
the energy fields. And it's like,
Yeah.
we can't just leave that. That doesn't, like, I've got to remove that. I've got to recode the body. And I didn't really know at the
Yes.
time what I was doing, but essentially I had learned how to recode the multidimensional body
Yes.
energetically. And so it was like, I didn't know what I was doing, but at the same time, like, following intuition is huge too. So I think that's really, I believe that's the next wave of intelligence. I feel like that's the next wave of working in the body. I mean, we can do somatics, but even I know people that have done a ton of somatic work and they're still flighting out. Their body goes into a complete flight mode whenever a guy doesn't call them back in 20 minutes, you know? And so it's like, that's, you can do all the somatic body work you want and all the mindset work, but if you're not working in the nervous system, the operating system, the multidimensional, the intelligence of all the aspects of you, that's why it's not getting, you know, I hear a lot, I've done the work, but I'm still not seeing change in my physical reality. Then you're missing something. There's something missing.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not
Yes.
your, there, when you do a lot of energy work and nothing in your physical, it's just hitting a wall, and then you're going, I don't believe in this anymore. That's because you haven't hit everything. And so that's why one modality doesn't necessarily hit all aspects. Like, you can focus on the mind, you can focus on somatic work, you can focus on, you know, quantum healing, past life, ancestral work. But if you're only working with, that's not working with the whole puzzle piece. You're working with a
Yeah.
piece of the puzzle, you know, and I like
Absolutely.
that you bring that forward in the intelligence of the body. So if people could leave this conversation remembering one thing about themselves and their body, what would you want them to know?
So our body is always on, okay, 24/7. Um, you know, things that have been regulated to memory. So our body knows if you trust the wisdom and, get to know your body. And this way, body shame has to stop, has to stop, has to stop, especially with women. Stop, because you are denying yourself access to the keys of your kingdom, and there's a whole relationship that goes on with the body. Your body, when I say body, I mean, yes, physical, but it's your whole, it's your energy body. Your body is your vehicle, your body is your home. And that, like you, I help people remember who they are. And the wisdom is there. You watch the elders, life slows down, and you find time to be with yourself. Just really access, do everything you can to access yourself. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable because you have to do the shadow work. If you're not going to, you can't deny your shadow. It's a part of you, and our body is guiding us in this. So yeah, our body knows, and bodies never lie. They really show us how to trust, and you see this in pets, younger children. They have an ease in their body. Cats
Mhm.
especially, I always think, my cats are just, I put their leg up like this and I'm like, oh, shut up. They aim at yoga like, but some days my leg is easy to lift, and bodies have rhythm. Our bodies work on a different timeline than the 12-hour clock. And
Yeah.
we see this in nature, and I think a lot of people who follow the moon cycles, and this is, again, it's this, the pagan wisdom that's there, and that was seemingly obliterated or disguised. I'm not
Yeah.
too ritual per se. I think we are past the times of rituals, because that's just, again, we're repeating, we are recreating. We're not here to recreate, we are here to create. And we're standing in a time where humanity has never been here, and that's why it can look so chaotic at the moment, because the old systems are shifting. And be as present as you can in your body, connect to yourself every day, and cultivate non-judgment, cultivate self-love. And we're talking big self-love, we're not talking conditional self-love. So our bodies are the most sophisticated organic software, better than AI,
Mhm.
because the body knows. And I mean, I love AI. I think it's very interesting. But even AI, I've worked with it enough, is that it's a reflection of me.
Right.
And and everything is, it's all our energy, and the one that can tap into it the best is the body. But to do this, we need to make sure we're eating food that our body wants. We have to have nervous systems that are open. And I've been in states where I never knew how I was going to pay my rent the week, so survival mode was off the charts. And but even that, I had to say, okay, so what? So what? I'm still here. I exist. I am that I am. And there's a lot of things that society tells us we need to reinforce ourselves, to give ourselves identity. All of that is eventually going to be fully stripped away. And again, either you go kicking and screaming, or you go consciously, and it's happening. Consciousness itself is, I don't know if evolving is the right word, because I think consciousness is complete within itself. But our school on earth is, and people have been speaking about the split and that. So I think it is coming to that point where there will be a diversion, different realities. I mean, quantum physics speaks about it already, so we'll be choosing which dimension we want to hang out in. So again, radio station, and your antenna is your body.
Yeah.
I would like to say what was a big turning point for me was when I really thought, no, I'm only going to do things now that are fun. Now, doing shadow work is not considered fun, but I also got to a point where I realized if I'm not going to do the shadow work, so I'm not talking about just purely good feelings. It's a choice of the kind of life I want to live, the integrity I want to have, and also knowing as a sovereign being that I'm in the world and not of it. So and to also remember that you can't understand, experience the new reality from your viewpoint now. You do have to transition it. And this is where the mind goes, but I can't even see. I don't even know what I'm looking at. And that was me for a long time. I just knew there was something bigger, but I didn't know what it was. But there was just, you will recognize it when you remember, but you have to get there, and this is, I think, why these cliches, like, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Is there anything you want to share you have coming up, or your like special one-on-one offer?
Yeah, so for me, I love working one-on-one with people because we can really dive deep and get unique. We are all different. If one thing massage has taught me is every single body is different, and we have all coded and structured ourselves differently. I have Untangle Me offer, which is 90 minutes. And this is for people who've already done a lot of inner work. And like you say, they've gotten to a point where they're just realizing they're stuck and they need more of fine tune. They need to find their direction again. We are living in such amazing times, and it's happening because we're ready. So that's 90 minutes. That's the easiest way to work with me. I have my website, which you're happy to go and browse. So if anybody is feeling they've hit a wall and they're ready to move forward, then they can find the Untangle Me sessions.
Sounds beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. If something stirred in your soul today, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, speak it, and let it ripple. Hit that subscribe button and stay close. The revolution isn't coming. It's already moving through you. Until next time, stay grounded in your truth and rise as the divine remembrance and rebel that you are. Have a beautiful day.